Hello, this is Zoltán with ARCHLine here. We are constantly working to give you the tools and knowledge to make the design and documentation process faster and more accurate. Let's see a few examples. Show a portion of your design at a larger scale using the callout. Add any further details you want. Print queue automatically assembles all your layouts. Just click publish and you're good to go. Use schedules with images. Manage your drawing content directly from your schedule and vice versa. Schedules can also be exported into Excel. Even if your models are complex, your sections will be done in seconds. Shadows and textures on sections create a much cleaner visual. Create wall views with furniture and dimensions in an instant. Wall views are automatically titled and linked to the room and wall where they belong. Use 2D fields and drawing order to control the appearance of overlapping objects. Communicate BIM information in a standardized format using the IFC classifications. Link IFC, PDF, DWG and RBT files with your project to visualize external content for coordination purposes. The files automatically update when you open the project, but of course you can update them manually as well. Create unique 3D solids using the push-pull command. Just draw the contour and extrude the shape that you need. Create customized foundations using any 2D section profile. Use the project templates to specify the starting environment of your design. The project template contains the default units of measurement, styles, layers, floors, building structure, and so on. Create walls already equipped with tiling. Tiling layouts will always update when you insert or remove a door or a window. Use rule-based filters to display, select, graphically highlight or even isolate parts of your design. Visit our website for the full list of features and don't forget to download your free trial today.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. Today's webinar is going to talk about the new release of ARCHLine.XP 2021. So today and the next session next week we are going to talk about the highlighted new features of the new release. Today first I'm going to talk about the rendering new features, about new presets that are going to help you to create better interiors and exterior renders with less noise and better quality. And we also will show you how to create wall elevation views with details and annotations and dimensions and also furniture details appearing automatically. And there is even a way to create wall elevation views out of one single room in one single step. So you will like it if you are creating wall elevation views a lot. Also, we are going to show you how to handle overlapping objects on 2D. So if there are a few items like chairs and tables and everything else that are either partially or fully overlapping each other, we will teach you how to handle that situation with a new feature. And also I'm going to show you how to handle callouts, how to highlight specific parts of your section perhaps or your elevation drawing, and how that is connected directly to the original source and how it can be refreshed when something has changed. Also, I'm going to show you how you can create schedules with images, perhaps also with dimensions, and how to export those into an Excel file. And finally, I'm going to show you how you can create automatically assembled multi-page PDFs if you already have the plot layouts created in your drawing with one single click. So we are actually having a lot of things to cover today. And if you have any questions during today's session, just leave your comment below or at the left-hand side in the chat bar, and we are going to answer you during this session. But if you would like to ask your questions after this show is over and you watch it kind of offline, not in real time, then you are still free to ask your questions in the comments. So let's see what new features ARCHLine introduces with this release. Let's see how we can create rendered images with better quality and less noise within the software. And for that I will open up the rendering settings, and I'm going to use this project as a starter, which is an interior design project, but I will also show you an example to the exteriors for an architectural example. So now here let's see first the settings. I'm going to use the standalone rendering And here you can see that there is the resolution and all sorts of other settings that of course you need to set up before starting the rendering. And now I'm going to focus on the rendering presets. Now here, as you can see, the rendering presets are distinguished based on the scenario, whether this is an exterior or an interior scene. And also it is both of them are having a quick, a detailed, and a complete rendering style, rendering preset. Now the difference between these is one way the quality, and the other way is the time they take to render. Usually a quick render, whether we talk about if we talk about an exterior and an interior render, if we talk about a quick render, it is going to have a nice image with a lot of details, reflections and everything, and many times already noiseless. But if that is not enough, then we can increase the quality to detailed and have a longer render with better details, better quality, and reduce noise if the quick render introduced any. And finally, if we would like to still increase the quality, and I will show you an example for each of these, you can also use the complete, which is kind of, as the name indicates, is kind of a complete solution in regarding talking about how the diffuse lights and the whole light balance of the interior will behave. So as I'm going to render now an interior scene, I'm going to use the interior quick render now. And before I start rendering, I would like to draw your attention to two other settings, which is the sunlight and the sun intensity scaling. Now in this case, I'm going to start rendering with the clear daylight, but as you can see, again, based on the scenario, you have different other options like cloudy daylight, night sky, and even there is a setting to introduce no sun and no sky, and that is for closed interiors, which is a very good thing to have, because sometimes in case of closed interiors, calculating the sunlight and all sort of ambient light is just a waste of time. So the software in this case, if you already know that you don't want to contribute those effects, then you can just simply skip them and you have a better rendering and a faster rendering. But now I'm going to use the clear daylight because this is having a direct connection to the exterior, and I'm going to use the default sun intensity scaling, which is a 0 to 100 scaling. So it's now in a medium setting, and I'm going to use that default now. And once I start rendering, the software prepares the model, and I'm going to see a result. Well, I actually already rendered these, so let me open up the first result. And this first result was generated like this. So as you can see, all sort of light effects are already introduced pretty much as I expected. There is no noise already with even the lowest settings. This is nice and clear, and also this LED strip is having a nice effect here. So I'm actually already satisfied with this result, but I would like to draw your attention to the one that I was talking about, and that is the sunlight intensity. Now I'm using the default setting, which is 50. So that means the sunlight, even despite I'm using a kind of shady background, which is kind of a cloudy background, despite the fact I'm using that background, I still have a very powerful sunlight effect. Now if I'm going to decrease that value to around like 10 or so, I'm going to get the following result. And as you can see, now the background is a little bit more emphasized because of the change of the exterior light balance. As you can see, the direct sunlight hits the surface still, but it has a less powerful effect in comparison to the artificial lights. Now, so the artificial lights actually didn't become stronger or anything like that, but the sunlight effect became weaker. So this way you can actually scale how intensive the sunlight effect is in case of a rendering like this, and you can change the mood of your rendering or better match the background or whatever your reason should be. You can just do that and check whether this or the other result is better for your rendering. Now let me increase the quality. So this was still also the fast renderings, the quick renderings. Both renders were made with that, and now I'm going to show you what a detailed render looks like, and this is the detailed setting. Now, well, I also changed back the sunlight intensity, so it's a little bit difficult to compare with the previous one, but here there are a little bit more details, a little bit more shaded details, especially around corners and around objects. And also for that it takes a little longer to render. Now, to give you an assumption how long these render took on my computer, and again I'm going to highlight that of course rendering time depends on your settings and your computer as well. But on my computer with the same settings as you saw before, the first render took around 2 or 3 minutes. I don't remember exactly, but this render took around 14 minutes. So it took like 3 or 4 or 5 times longer for a little bit more details. Now, I could say that I'm already excited of the result and I don't want to increase the quality, but let's see how the complete render works. And in this case, as you can see, the result is much more natural. The details are so realistic, especially around those corners where the direct sunlight and the diffuse lights are hitting the surfaces around objects like this, around the little wrinkles of this backcloth and so on. So as you can see, that there's just more detail in this result. But of course this takes longer to render. In this specific case, this took around 40 minutes for this resolution and for this quality. So this is how I got to this result. Now let's see a render for the exterior scenes. Let me just go back to ARCHLine, and this time I'm going to render a few scenes, a few views of this specific building, which is also from one of our users, which we are very thankful for. And I'm going to show you a few renders made of this building from this specific point of view, and another one later. So let me show you the first result. The first result was this one. So this is, as the name indicates here, this was the A01, which is for the exteriors, architectural 01. So this is the quick render. It is already kind of satisfying. I can see the details, I can see shadows, I can see nice reflections of the sky in the building's surfaces, and well, I could say that's okay, it's fine. It took a few minutes, but I already have a nice image of this. But what happens if I increase the quality, if I increase this to detailed? If I increase the quality from quick to detailed, I can see a little bit more details, especially around corners, especially around small areas like this here. As you can, I'm just switching between the two. As you can see, there is just a little bit more depth for a little bit more of the rendering time. So this was quick and this was detailed. So this takes around 4 or 5 times longer, but it's a little bit more detailed. But if I go with the final one, which is the complete, I can see that the corners, the tiny details are all neat and just so fine that this image, of course it took longer, but it is also much more detailed, and the shadows and the shading is just simply much more correct than it was before. Okay, so let me just compare again the previous and this final one. As you can see, especially around the small details, we can see a lot of work introduced, and of course this reflects the change in rendering time. So this took at least 2 or 3 times longer than the middle one, than the detailed one. Okay, so let me show you another angle of this building to introduce these settings. And now I also created, actually, just for comparison, I also created a render for the quick rendering. I mean, for the real-time ray traced, which is also just for work. As you can see, it's not clear at all. The edges are jagged and so on. But the reason there's this real-time work render is to have a very quick result in literally in seconds, and then you can say that, okay, I like this result and I'm willing to wait for the quick render. And so the quick render looks like this. It's actually removing a lot of the noise, of course, from the real-time rendering, which is only for work, not for the clients. So this is already having nice features, but still I can see a few places where I can see a little bit of noise introduced here, especially and around corners. Some corners are actually just little not visible, as you can see here. So if I would like to make them more emphasized, I can increase the quality, and I can use the detailed render. This is A02, and this is the detailed render for exteriors. And as you can see, the corners are much prettier, and here, as you can see, the noise is removed. So as you can see all around, the details are just simply much better for a little bit longer rendering time. And for the longest rendering time, I have the most correct representation of how the sunlight, and if I would have any artificial lights, of course, those will be perfectly represented. I can see a lot more details, especially around corners where the diffuse lights are acting and taking out of the details of this model. Okay, so let me also show you an interesting thing. What happens if accidentally or perhaps intentionally you are going to use an interior rendering preset for an exterior render? So now for this reason, I've created another version of this image that you saw before. And here, as you might say, that perhaps there's no reason to be worried, because this image looks cool, no problem with that. But if you look close to small areas, like especially around windows here, you can see like the windows are kind of glowing here. And let me just zoom into this area so I can explain what happens here. I just created a detailed render of this around this corner, and as you can see, yes, there's literally a halo around this window and around this one and around all of the windows, but here, especially in dark areas, it is kind of emphasized. And that's the reason why we don't use interior presets for exteriors, because those are tailored for interiors, and those are also focusing on windows and doors for having a better light in the interior. But on the exterior scenarios, it is just counterproductive. It's not a good way of approaching an exterior. So that's why we decided to distinguish interiors and exteriors in the level of presets. So if you use an interior preset for an exterior, you might end up with a false result because of a halo like this. So don't use that. Use exteriors for the exteriors. And now let me just go back to show you my final example for today, and that is again an interior render, and that is a third project, which is a living room. And again, here I'm going to show you the 3 different stages. And the first stage, which was the quick render, the interior quick render, this is how it looks like. Well, I can see already correct colors, correct reflections, nice background, sunlight coming in, and a nice flooring and so on. But if I look closer, I can also see a few of the issues that are sometimes introduced in case of a few scenarios. When you use a low setting for a complicated interior with a lot of diffuse light. So this is what you will get. And well, sometimes if you don't have enough time, you don't have more to render, then you will go with this. But if you have more time, you can increase the quality and try removing these by using the detailed render. But sometimes this is simply not enough, and it might also introduce other issues because this is just still not detailed enough to remove all those issues that we wanted to. So in complex scenes like this, we need to increase the quality, we need to increase the details, and we need to increase the rendering time to be able to wash out those issues and create something like this, where all the corners are nice and detailed and correct, with the diffuse lights, especially around these areas, around the spotlights. And if you look closer to this, let me just switch between detailed and this one, the complete one. So okay, so again, this is complete and this is detailed. So this is complete and this is detailed. Now the difference between those two, that in case of the detail, there is no information about the window that is actually behind me. In this model, there is a large portal behind me, and also that casts diffuse light into this interior. So if I increase this and I use the instead of the detailed, I'm going to use the final, the complete render, then this is how it looks like, because actually there is light information coming from my back, behind me, and that brights up the scene, and it also introduces a lot of nice details. Now again, this is not where you going to stop. If you would like to increase the quality, even though this is the highest setting, you still have an option. Let me just go back to ARCHLine to introduce that. So if you go back to ARCHLine and you open up the rendering setting, let me just open this up, and if you select the interior, the third option, interior complete, you will have a new option coming in, which is the light source sampling, and this is the highest default setting, but if you would like to, you can increase this light source sampling. So that means the software will take more samples of the lights, and it will calculate a much better, a much more realistic, even more realistic result than this one. But sometimes it's just simply not necessary because you are already satisfied with this result and you will go with the defaults. But if you would like to, you can still increase the sampling rate, and of course by that increase the quality, and parallel you will also increase the rendering time. So this is how the rendering works. I hope I could highlight how those different settings might affect your rendering and how they could wash out issues and perhaps noise from your rendering. If you have any question, just send your questions and we are more than happy to help you. Let's see the wall elevation tool. This can be found in the interior, in the documentation and wall elevation. There are several options to that, and I'm going to talk about the settings first. Now the settings is kind of similar to what you've seen in case of the elevations and the sections. Now the most important for us that you can select the representation style that you would like to represent your wall elevation in. There is a vector drawing and also raster image, and also you can change the visual style. Now in this case I'm going to go with the shaded version. You can also enable the dimensions for the cabinets, which is an important part of this wall elevation view, as we are using it for our kitchen now. And also you can set up other settings like the fronts you can enable or disable, and also you can change the length dimension type to something that you've created, and the elevation dimension style to something that either is in the software or you have selected that. There is another option to select what sort of symbol you would like to see at the wall, and also how it would be represented with the elevation view. Those are symbols that you can select with specific IDs. You don't have to change those. Those will automatically fill up by default, so you don't have to do anything with that. This is just how they will look like. And then when you say OK, then the software remembers these settings, and when you create the elevations, you can go to the interior elevation, and then you can select the wall that you would like to create the interior elevation of. So I'm going to pick up this wall here, and I'm going to set up the depth around here, somewhere in this edge. So it's actually containing all the furniture here and a little bit of this left hand side intersected. So I'm going to finish this. I hit enter because I'm satisfied with the boundaries, and say enter. And then I'm going to place this wall elevation view next to this drawing. This will be placed someplace here. So we can see that the software automatically created a line drawing with all the elevations and the length dimensions. By the way, I can customize where they are, so I will do that in a second. And also there are the colors and all the details. As much as it was created, as much as detailed it was designed, it is all represented here. And I also see many of the details of the kitchen cabinet details, like the doors, the knobs, and also the intersected part here. So this is the wall view by default. Now this is in connection with the original model, so you can refresh it at any time when it changes. But also it has a 2D symbol here represented. Now let me just shift it off to someplace else, like for example to this place, and I'm going to edit this content. So what I would like to do, I would like to instead of a simple number, I would like to change this to, I don't know, let's just say this is the kitchen elevation 01. So when I edit that, it is automatically represented here and here. So those two are interconnected. It is easy to tell when you select an already placed wall elevation view. This tiny dashed line with the rectangle here represents the direction, the depth, and the interconnection with the placed drawing content on the drawing. So this is how they are interconnected. The software understands that they are there, and should I remove this one, the 2D symbol will go automatically wherever I placed it. Also, I can change the wall view name and the room name, for example. Now, the room name is as a good thing that is automatically inherited from the room's name, so you didn't have to do anything with that. The software automatically understood that is in connection with the room. But if you want to, you can rename that. Now, what I would like to rename, I would like to the fronts. I would like to rename that. And then hit enter. So now I will have this full elevation view with this specific name. And I also would like to create another one. I mean, I will just simply repeat this interior elevation. But before I do that, I go to the settings and I would like to create one without fronts. So now I'm just enabling this option. So I don't want to see the fronts. I hit OK. And then I go to the interior elevation. Again, I set the same wall view with the same depth. Nothing has changed. I just hit enter. And this time I will place it next to this existing one. This will be, well, let me just match those next to each other, someplace like that. And then now I have this other view, which has automatically another name. This is another wall elevation view with a different content, but inherited from the same content. So again, this is in connection with the original content. So whatever I change here, I can right click here and I can update this or all the frontal views as I wish. Now, one thing I promised that I wanted to show you that here actually you can edit the content here. That's a very simple thing. All you need to do is this is a dynamic group. So you can edit the group and you can go into the content and you can say that, well, I would like to move this around, I don't know, someplace here. And I would like to move this other text around here or something like that. So this is how you can edit the content, and then you can close the group. And then still, this is the wall elevation view that the software has generated for you from your drawing with all the dynamic content. So this is how it works. Now, finally, at the end, I would like to show you a great function when you would like to create interior designs and you would like to create many of those elevation views. In that case, you will use the interior elevations from a room. In that case, you just click here and you can select the room that you would like to create the elevation views of. So I'm clicking here and then the software will generate that. Now again, the software by default automatically selects one of the walls. It is selected this tiny part, so I can set up the depth of this wall elevation. And let's just make it sure that it can contain my 600 millimeter deep furniture everywhere, so it's a little bit larger. So I just hit enter and then I can place the first one. Let me just make sure that I will have enough space, because here I will actually generate a lot of these. So I just click here and then the software starts generating those. Okay, so that's it. Pretty cool, isn't it? It's already in connection with the symbols that the software automatically placed here. I can displace these symbols anywhere else. I can displace these content next to each other if I prefer that way. So let me just rearrange this someplace else. Like I would like to see this one here, and for example these, I don't know, someplace here at the right hand side, so something like that. But the most important thing is that, again, what I only need to do is just to add my customized text, something of an extra detail like measurements here, because here I did not have any furniture, so the software didn't measure anything. And I can also change the numbering, I can change the naming, and that's it. It's pretty cool. I also wanted to show you another example. If in your area you represent height elevations in a different way, you can also change that in case of the wall view. So I'm going to use the documentation wall view settings, and here you can find this option, which is when you enable the create dimensions for cabinets, you have this option that the vertical dimension style could be either a length dimension, which I'm going to use now, or an elevation on section, which I used before. So I'm going to use this one, and I hit OK, and then I will create the wall view, a single wall view out of this this part of this building. Let's just click here and hit enter. So I'm going to place this near to the drawing, so you will see that instead of the kind of elevation drawings, like elevation dimensions that I used before, you will see nice length dimensions for these units. Let me just place it here. So this is how it looks like, and as you can see now, all the units, not only horizontally but vertically, are using a dimension style that I wanted to use for the vertical dimensions. In this example, I'm going to show you how you can represent objects in 2D with so-called 2D fills, and also how to represent them on top of each other as they are represented by nature in the 3D on top of each other. So let me just show you first one interesting function that is making it a whole lot easier than just selecting them one by one. There is an option that you can use here in the single object tools, and it is called the display 2D fills. Now with this one, you can easily select any of those objects, click on that, and the software will automatically apply a fill, a color fill on it. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the sofa, and I'm going to do the same thing with the lamp as well, and also with this little item here. So now what's going on here? Now, so how does the software know what sort of color it should use? Now it's a very, very simple thing. Each and every object has a material, and that material has a base color, and that base color is chosen as the fill color automatically. It will work for the majority of your models, very likely, but in case it was somehow selected else, like for example in this case it really looks like the first material of this object was not the main dominant material but the legs, so in that case I can also customize it. And by the way, this is also the same option how you can not only customize the object but also change the 2D fill color. So what you need to do is that here you have this option to disable or enable the 2D fill, and also you have the option to change the color of that 2D fill. So this is what I'm going to use now. I'm going to change this background fill to something else, like perhaps I can use another tone of this one, or I can go to the RAL color table or any other color tables, and I can just go and try to select something that resembles the original color, which was, I think it was around slate gray or perhaps anthracite or graphite. I'm going to use this one, and then I hit OK, and then I hit OK, then the software will represent this item with that specific fill. So this is what you can see here now. Now there is one another thing. If you change a fill of that object, like let me just go here and see, now this has a quite interesting pattern. So now I'm going to say that, well, I don't want to see the default one, but I'm going to change it to another tone. I don't know, something brighter or something darker. And then when I hit enter and hit OK, now I can see that it seems that the carpet is overlapping my my sofa, and the 2D at least. In the 3D nothing has changed. Now why is that? The reason to that is that whenever you place an item in the 2D, it will automatically get an automatic drawing order, which in case of the objects is always the bottommost. It's always number 8. You have a 7 or 8 level draw order system, and everything falls to the bottommost. Now, as both of them is at the bottommost level, now the software couldn't decide which one should be, at least with the 2D shape, which one should overlap the other one. So the latest changed overlap the other one. But you can control this easily. You can tell the software that this indeed is at level 8, the bottommost, but the other one should be at level 7, which is one level above the level 8. So now it seems to be correct. And then whenever you do the same thing with the coffee table or with this one, for example, because now it seems that this little rope or this pole of this lamp is fallen under the sofa. Now what I need to do is just to elevate at least one level above this one, which was 7. So I need to go here and select number 6. So now this looks proper. And also here, just to make sure that whenever I change this, won't fall under the this other item, I will just simply go there and say that the 2D fill is enabled, and then the draw order should be at least number 7 above bottommost. Now in case I do that, there might be another issue with the other unfilled objects as well, like these here, that they got overlap, because simply the same truth happens with all the rest of the objects. Now with this tiny spot lamp here, it also has, just as any other drawing item in ARCHLine, has a draw order. So to make sure that is always at the top, I should select topmost. So whatever I place it under, and the same thing I can do with all the rest of these lamps. So whatever I place under, they won't ever overlap the spot lamps, because they will be all on a lower level. So this is how it is. It is a very simple and very powerful tool to organize your drawing, make it easier to read for your clients and for yourself, also by extending this with other things, like for example, let me just change the color of these supporting parts and use, for example, a dash line, for example here, and then hit OK. And then now my drawing, with a few clicks and using the 2D fills and using the drawing orders, it is much easier to read and much easier to understand, and this is what I will publish in the final drawing. So this is how easily you can reorganize the content like I did. You can use the callout tool to frame and highlight any certain part or several parts of your drawing and handle it as a separate drawing for any sort of reasons, like for example you would like to add some sort of extra information that you did not want to represent on the original drawing. Now I will use this nearly finished 2D section here, and I would like to highlight this specific area, and for that I will use the documentation callout, and first I just make sure that I have the proper settings. Now when I click here, I can make sure that I'm using the proper layer, the colors, line type, line weight, and drawing order. I can make sure that I have the callout sign enabled, and I can turn on or off the visibility of this callout in print. Now I will just go with the default, so I hit OK, and then I have two options to create the callout shape. One is the polygonal and the other one is the rectangular. I'm going with the first one, and I will just highlight or frame this area with the rectangle like this, and then I place the symbol here. Now the software automatically numbers these callouts. I created this first one here, so this is why it's callout number 1. And as you can clearly see, this is the area that I have highlighted, I framed with this callout. And then at the moment when I created it, there was a new drawing created with the name of my original drawing. This was called 2D section, and I have a list of callouts with one single callout here, which is created from the section. So if I click here, I can see that there is this callout with the proper numbering. Now sometimes I realized that, okay, the original frame was a little bit too large. I did not want to include this part of the drawing, so then I can just select the callout itself, and I can click on the corner and use offset to make it smaller. Now this just did not shrink the content that is visible here in the separate callout drawing, but if I go back to the 2D section drawing, I can see that the original callout, which generates this content, is also automatically shrinked as I expected. Now another example that I wanted to show you is that if you go back to the callout itself, the separate callout, just as I mentioned, you can add extra details, like for example a text that represents the slope of this cantilever here, for example. I'm just placing it here. And as I'm doing this on the separate copy, the separate callout itself, this is something that belongs only to the callout and it won't be represented on the original drawing. So let's see how that goes. I'm also adding a dimension, like a length dimension, an aligned length dimension of this cantilever. I'm adding it here, and then now I have this content, but only on this callout and not on the original drawing. Now, on the other hand, if the original drawing changes, like for example, let me just do a very simple change here. I'm just simply changing the color of this hatching that I have here. Let me just change this to something dark bluish like this, and I hit OK. I can go back to the callout, and I'm doing that now, and I can click on refresh callout or update callout in the local menu, or I can also go to the documentation callout and use the update callout command. Whichever I'm using, the software will again look at the original content and update whatever have changed. Also, if I would like to, I can change the numbering here. Now, as you can see, number 1 is represented here and here, but let's say I would like to use a different numbering like 01 or something like that. I also would like to define a sheet number. Then I can do that. Let me just change that 01, enter, and then the software changed it here, and it will also change it on the separate copy of the callout, the separate drawing of the callout itself. Now let's see what sort of functionality and features we have with the schedule toolset. I will actually create a list of windows here, and for that I will use the define schedule toolset here. Now the first thing that I'm willing to do is first select the architectural elements, and there I can find a window. Now here I have a few options to modify this list. And what I'm willing to show you is this one here with the image with dimensions. This is something that is by default here in this list, or you can also find it here at the end of the general properties. You can either go with the image of the window or door, and actually this is supported for many other item types as well, or you can just simply use the image with dimensions that I have selected here. Now what I would like to add here, I would like to remove a few things here. I just would like to show you how to customize this. I would like to remove frame information, glazing information, just for the sake of this example here. I would like to see the reference ID if I have any, or I can just go there and replace it with the ID which is in the software. So I can just shuffle it up to the top and remove the reference ID which I don't want to see now. Now let's see what else I need here. I actually need the size of these windows, which I will place right after the quantity, and for that I will use the width first, and I will just add it to the list, and I will do the same thing with the height. And then let's just place them, position them above notes and behind the quantity. Let's just do the same thing with the height. So I'm done with this, and we will see a list with IDs of windows, their names, their width and heights, and also the orientation and the images with dimensions. So let's see how that looks like. So once I have free space here next to the drawing, I can just use the placing schedule option, and then I can select the window, and here I can see the one schedule that I have just assembled represented the way I left, but I can still disable the visibility of any of those if I don't want to see them in the final list. I can still change my mind here. I actually do not want to, so I just hit OK, and then in the following window, and then the following property dialog, I can just set up the formatting schedule options that are appearing here. Now I don't want to see headers and footers. I will have headers and footers, but this is a grouping option that I don't want to see, because I have decided to sort this list by floors, but I actually only have one floor, so it would not make sense to group them furthermore. Now I also would like to see the grand total, so I enable this option, and there is a cool option here to change the cell text style, the style of the table's name, and the column names, and I can just click here and select any of those text styles that I also already have in my project, which I can either define or modify in the drafting menu. So now these are the ones that I have already in my project. I actually created a few here, so I will have nice blue texts appearing as titles and cell content and so on. I can also do the same thing with the length and the elevation dimension, but I actually am happy with the default, so I did not change those. And there is one last thing that I'm willing to talk about, and that is the ratio, which is the text height image height ratio. So this number means if I have, let's say, 100 millimeter tall text, then I will end up with images in this list appearing 1000 millimeter tall, but we will see how that looks like in a second. So when I hit OK, I will be able to generate this list, and I will be able to place it next to the drawing someplace here in the empty area. Now what I have here is the nice window schedule list with my custom text style with the numbers of the IDs, and sometimes they are, because they are similar windows here exactly with the same dimensions and the same window name, those are summarized, and that quantity tells me that there are 3 windows with the same exact geometry, width and height, and also the orientation is the same. And I have these nice figures here which I can zoom into, and when I will print this it will be nice and detailed and crisp and clear. And also I can either print this content here, I can place it using the documentation plot layout tools. I can just assemble a plot layout with these quantities, with these schedules that I have created here. Or I have another option to also generate an Excel file out of this. So I can just right click here and click on Save to Excel, and the Excel file automatically appears. This Excel file contains the same thing that you see that you saw previously on the drawing, with the IDs, the names, the quantities, either one by one or summarized if that was necessary. Or you can also find the figures here with the dimensions and all the frontal views of the windows. So you can use this for further calculations, and also you can save it as a separate Excel file detached from the project. And then now let's see the same exact schedule feature set in case of a different type of project. So now I'm willing to list all my furniture here in the kitchen. So I will go to the define schedule option to determine what I will list in the interior, and I will go here and try to find the cabinets here. Now what I would like to see is the ID of those cabinets, the floor where they are, the type, the width, height, and all the geometrical information. And also I would like to add the image with dimensions at the end. And now when I hit OK, I can go to schedule, placing a schedule, and I go and select interior and cabinet here. And I keep all these options on. And then when I hit OK, the software will show me the options of how I can format the schedule. And I can again determine the type of the text and the style of the table name and so on, and also the image and text ratio here. So when I hit OK, I can place this list next to the drawing. Now this list is a little bit long, which is happening because I have quite a few of these cabinets here. So I will just place it here. But you will see in the end that I have the same option or similar information about the cabinet schedule that appears here with the IDs, the floors where they are, the name of those items, the width, depth, height, and also little thumbnails of the furniture with all the measurements appearing next to them. And I can just simply either again go with a printed version of this, with a high quality printed version of this, or I can also export this into an Excel file for perhaps further calculations. The print queue function in ARCHLine is a great time saver, especially when you're working with multi-page plot layouts. So let me just show you how that works. Now in this project, I actually have 2 plot layouts assembled. One is for a portfolio, which is a large page for large print with all the content that I wanted to assemble on it, perhaps also with renderings and descriptions and so on. But my focus now is on the documentation part, where I actually assembled 6 pages for this documentation. And as you can see, those pages are having different orientation, different paper size, and I would like to assemble as fast as possible a multi-page PDF at the end, so I can send it over to my clients or to the authorities. Now here at the right hand side, you can also tell that you have 2 different plot layouts. One is the large layout, this is the one, and the other one is actually having 6 different pages. And once you click on those pages, the software is actually telling you which is that page, like page 5, page 6, and page 1. And this is also a very good thing when you are working with 30 or 40 different pages, and actually you can also rename those pages to make them even more easy to distinguish from one to the other. but actually it's a very good overview as well, so you can navigate through those pages. Now, so I have these 6 pages, and I go to the file and the plot layout option, the print queue option. And here I enable this option to combine those pages into a single PDF file, and this is the name of the PDF file where it will be stored once I will hit print. Also, I can select the type of PDF. I'm happy with level B now because this is the authorities locally need here. And then I click here, and then instead of adding pages one by one by selecting them and hitting OK, this is a crucial point. I click on the page collector here. This is the layout itself, not the layout pages. I click on the layout itself. So when I hit OK, and the software recognizes the size of this page, the orientation of this page. Also, it auto-centers the content into the page, and it selects the scale factor 1:1 because the page itself, I don't want to further upscale or downscale. It is already as it should be. The content was already scaled on it, but I don't want to further upscale or downscale the page. So this should be 1:1 as the software recognized it. Okay, so I'm happy with those. I didn't have to change anything here at all. I just click on apply, and now the software keeps adding all those pages into the print queue automatically. And because I have enabled the combine into a single PDF file, I can print all these content into one single PDF file. And of course, if I want to change how the content is visible or how the printing settings will work on this specific page or any of those pages, I can select them, and I can go to the details. I can remove those pages. I can change their order. This will make the page order as well. And if I actually am happy with the content, then I can click on print and see the final result. And here is the final result. The final result is a 6-page PDF as I expected, with the first page being the site plan. The second is perhaps the first floor, the second floor, the roof floor, the elevations, also the sections and so on. So this is how easily and automated you can create a multi-page PDF if you already have multi-page plot layouts. So this was it for today. The first session of ARCHLine.XP 2021 new feature has just ended. I hope you liked the content, and whenever you have any question or you just would like to leave us a comment, please do that in the comment section. And if you like the content, please give us a thumbs up, and also subscribe to our channel if you would like to see any new materials coming out from our YouTube channel. Also, 1 week later, we will have the following session with other new features of the ARCHLine.XP 2021. So see you there and see what else we have for you.